Hi, it's Alaska Granny. Are chaotic times ahead? Who knows? Nobody knows what the future holds. But if we put our finger on the pulse of what's going on in the world, everywhere from in our own neighborhood to the entire globe, we can see that there are challenges that most of us, many of us, are having to face. It can be as simple as, for example, at my home, the power has been off 3 times in the last 3 weeks. That's unusual, and you never know how long the power is going to be off. It's been off from everywhere as long as 6 hours, 2 hours to half an hour, and you just never know. And then I'm thinking, okay, well then I'll just get in the car and go somewhere. And I realize I have a power operated garage door and my door is extremely heavy. So something you want to figure out ahead of time is, do you know how to open your garage door if you needed to? If you have a power opener, there's a little latch thing that you pull at the top that releases the door opener, so then you can raise or lower the door manually. Which, if your door is very heavy like mine, it could be a challenge that maybe you can't accomplish it on your own. And so you need to have a plan of what would you do. It's one thing if you come home and you can't get the garage door open, and that's when you want to make sure that you have an actual key to your home in your purse, your pocket, your wallet, somewhere, so that you can actually get inside your home. You don't want to be stranded because of an electrical outage. These are just simple challenges that can come unexpectedly, and we never know how long they might last. And then you can handle the little day-to-day things, the inconveniences that can get you going again. Another thing you want to make sure that you've thought about, what kind of food could you make if there is a power outage? Now, luckily, I have a gas stove, so I can still turn it on. But if you don't have a gas stove, maybe you want to make sure that you have something like a propane stove or a butane stove. Those are so convenient, and some of them are dual fuel. You can use propane or butane. And then you want to make sure that you have stocked up on the fuel cartridges. You can buy the propane stoves and the fuel cartridges or little bottles or tanks everywhere from sporting goods stores, Walmart, and sometimes ethnic type markets if you have those in your community. Everybody doesn't have that. Use your imagination when you're looking for prepping supplies. What's a store I've never been to? Maybe I want to just go look around and see what they have available. A strategy is to walk up and down the aisles, look things over, see if there's anything you are unfamiliar with, and think about, how could I use that? Could it help me in my life? And that's one of the ways that you provide the things you need, by figuring out ways you can use things that are unexpected. I call them like surprises, prepping surprises. And then you have some additional supplies, and then you have additional solutions to challenges that you might face. Don't wait for things to become chaotic to decide that you want to prepare. Because if you look at some of the real challenges that happened in the world that have stressed so many of us, they come on suddenly, like 9/11 or the invasion of Ukraine, the unrest in Israel, power outages, and even things like earthquakes. They come on suddenly. And one thing that I have noticed is that they may come on suddenly, but then they may continue to last for a long, long time. And that's what we found with something like the pandemic. It came on suddenly, but it lasted a very long time. So do invasions. And we don't want to have to face those challenges, but if they come to us, we need to be willing to take care of ourselves. And that's why I'm a prepper. It's lifestyle insurance to have the things that I need to figure out how to keep my life running smoothly. And that should be a goal, that we want to have that ability, that mindset, that I'm not afraid of the future, but I am uncertain of the future. It could bring chaos. It could be chaotic, but I will be able to navigate that. Remember when we couldn't get toilet paper? Did you ever wonder why suddenly there wasn't toilet paper during the pandemic? And it wasn't just that people bought it all up in the store because, first of all, you can see there are not that many rolls in the store. They take up a lot of space. And so people had been at work, using it at work, and now they're all at home using it up. Then during the pandemic, they also shut down so many things, and then they did the social distancing. So if people had been working in a paper factory, like toilet paper factory, they used to stand closer together, and suddenly they had to be 6 feet apart. Well, then they have to slow down the machines. They have to have fewer people working, and that is going to produce less products. So that's one of the reasons that we want to supply for ourselves, have a stockpile of things that we count on having, so that if there is a challenge and if those supplies become in shorter supply, more expensive, or harder to come by, then we have some of that, and it gives us a chance to figure out what to do to replace those things as we use them up. I know my grandchildren were here for about 9 days, and the amount of toilet paper I started going through in my own home was ridiculous because there were more people in my home using it. So that's something else you need to be prepared for. That you may figure out how much you use or how much your family uses, but if suddenly you have more people, whoosh, they're just going through it like this. So I also had to take that opportunity to teach my little grandchildren, you only need 4 squares. Just take 4 squares. And I noticed then my toilet paper was not unraveling quite so quickly. And it's like if you need more, you can get more, but you don't need to just go whoosh and a couple of times. It isn't necessary to use all that. And yeah, then you also eliminate clogging your toilet and needing a plumber. Yeah, that happened too. So if you can try to prevent some of those issues by using your resources wisely, use these opportunities to teach your family and to share ideas of how we make things last, how we use things reasonably. And so then I would say to them, how many squares did you use? And they became way more thoughtful. And then, yeah, I didn't need to worry so much about how quickly the toilet paper was going out of supply. But yes, I did have lots of it disappear, and I did have to call a plumber, but it's all good. That's just part of life. And see, that's when you just never know when things are going to happen. So you have a house full of people, of course, that's when your toilet is going to get clogged. But we can work it out. Another challenge is the food supply. During the pandemic, we noticed that many foods became unavailable. Many of the selections of, say, a can of soup. They used to have dozens of cans of soup, and suddenly there were just a few. Part of it was they couldn't get the ingredients that they wanted, say the grain from the Ukraine, or oils. I think some of the cooking and oils come from that area. I don't even remember what all the issues are. But that, for an example, is what caused things to be not available. Or if you notice, some of the foods that you enjoyed the flavor suddenly didn't taste right anymore. So if you start looking on the labels, that's something that companies started doing, was replacing the ingredients because they couldn't get them, or they replaced them with less expensive or lower quality ingredients because they needed to save money. Everything costs more, everything. And that's one of the ways that companies start changing items so that they can still make a profit. Now, I'm not going into whether they are making too much profit or any of that. It's just part of business. It's how it works. So we need to be cognizant of that and pay attention. Start looking at the packages, that even things you've bought for years. Look again at the ingredients. See if they are what you thought they were. Look at the ounces. Look at the serving size. Look at the number of servings in a container, and you may find that that information has all changed. I bought my kids some popsicles, and I was shocked when I was looking at the wrapper, and it said serving size 3. How are 3 popsicles a serving? That doesn't make any sense, but if you understand why 3 popsicles is a serving, please leave it in the comments and help educate me on that one. Anytime you see on a package that it says new, improved, or the packaging looks different, or they changed it from, say, giant size to family size. That is a clue to you that something has changed. Maybe they've put in less product, fewer, say, raisins in Raisin Bran, not as many beans in a can, it becomes more sauce. These are things that I have noticed, and so they might be things that you want to look at too, to make sure that we are inspecting the food, not just that it's still good to eat, but then when we're buying it and bringing it home, when we're choosing our food, that we know what we're actually getting. I always want to make sure that I have a full supply of the most basic foods: the rice, beans, oatmeal, pasta, salt, sugar, spices and seasonings. Make sure that you have flour if you use it, yeast if you use it. I store my yeast in the freezer. And something that's made a real difference for me on my budget and for my having the food that I need is I bought a bread machine a few years ago at a thrift store. And it has been phenomenal to be able to bake my own bread, until I set it all up to make a loaf of whole wheat bread recently, and then the power went out. So that was a glitch. That's not going to work. It did finally finish baking. It was completely misshapen, and it didn't taste good at all. So there's still going to be challenges even when we think we've got it all figured out. We think we have it all straightened out. We think we know what we're doing and we've found the solutions to keep life running smoothly, and yet, no, there are still challenges on a day-to-day basis. Along with a full supply of the staples, the basic foods, the longest lasting foods, and know that you can buy them in the store, bring those foods home. You can store them in clean canning jars, Mylar bags, 5-gallon buckets. You can also buy those foods already prepared in number 10 cans and sometimes in buckets from companies like Augustin Farms, which I can find them even at Walmart in Alaska, and I also order them sometimes from Amazon. You can also order longest lasting foods from the Mormon Church or the LDS Church. You don't have to be a member to buy from them. I'll put a link in the description of where you can order the food from the Mormon Church if you're interested in buying longest lasting foods that you can set away in your pantry so that you know you have the basic foods in a real chaotic SHTF situation. And you know what? It's basic foods that we can all eat anytime anyway. And so if you have it in, say, a number 10 can instead of a 5-gallon bucket, maybe you want to make bread. You can go and get one of the cans of flour, bring it into your kitchen, open it up, use it in your pantry, and then you are rotating, and it gives you the opportunity to replace some of that food as well. And that's how you have the most successful prepper pantry and food stockpile, is if you're rotating and replacing it. If you're finding foods that you've had a long time that are nearly out of date or even past the date, don't just throw them out. Look them over, check it out. If everything looks okay, inspect the container, make sure it doesn't look anything bloated, nothing looks greasy or off. Then you can go ahead and open it. If it spurts, throw it away. Does it look okay, smell okay, take a little taste? It probably is okay. And if you have any doubt, throw it out. It isn't worth getting sick over maybe $1 worth of food. And if you have some foods that you've had for a long time and you don't really care about using them anymore, if they're still within the date that they haven't completely expired, you can donate them to a food pantry or go ahead and get it out and experiment with it. What can you add to it? Can you serve it over pasta? Can you serve it over mashed potatoes? Can you stir in some rice? Can you add a can of beans? Can you add some sauce that you can see if you can make it be more interesting? Uh-oh. Okay. It's the Amazon guy. It's the Amazon guy. Okay, the Amazon guy just came. I ordered more of these fuzzy insoles. They're like fleece, and you can cut them to any size you want to put inside your shoes. I bought some a week or so ago for my duck shoes. You can see they're dirty. I wear them outside all the time. But I needed something to put in a new liner. They were getting a little uncomfortable, and then cold weather's coming. So you can see I cut them to the right size for my shoe. And then you just insert them and you have a nice fuzzy liner. Dirt. A lot of dirt. These are my outside. I have a lot of dirty outside shoes. There's a lot of dirt in my life. Then you just slide them in there. They add a layer of comfort. They add some warmth. And so these are something that I like to use in the wintertime, things like this. It gives you extra warmth for not a lot of money. So yeah, if you're interested in getting your shoes more comfy and a little bit warmer, check out these fuzzy insoles. If your shoes fit pretty tight in the first place, these may be too thick and then they're not going to work for you. But if you have shoes, boots that are kind of loose and maybe they're not as comfy anymore, you can help get them to last longer, make them more comfortable and warmer, which winter's coming. We certainly need to worry about that. Then something to remember is we all make mistakes. We misjudge who we should trust, who makes a good friend. We might choose something we think is going to be delicious and it just isn't. We might buy food and store it away, but then it got wasted, or we bought supplies that then we never even used. That's part of life. Don't beat yourself up over it. What we try to do though is learn from those mistakes. If you see a food you want to try or a prepping item that you think might be interesting, just get one, take it home, try it. If you like it, you can always go back and get more. And if it's some supply that you think you might enjoy and you find out either it's too complicated, you can't really figure it out, you have the opportunity then, if you check it out right away, that you can send it back to, say, Amazon or return it to Walmart, and then you don't have to worry about you wasted money on things that aren't useful. But don't just go buy something and set it on the shelf and think one day I'll figure that out. Because the day may come when not only can you not figure it out, but it isn't even going to do what you hoped it would do. So that's one reason that when you are buying things, checking it out, be curious, investigate, and try it. That's part of life, is making little experiments and learning things and checking it out as we go along. Don't just collect things, use them. Life shouldn't feel like a death march into chaos, SHTF, and an apocalypse. We are preparing to enjoy life. Look at it as a challenge. It's the enjoyment of every single day, and then you will have a better attitude when you figure out, what should I have? How do I use it? And then when a challenge comes along, you have put your mind into more of a positive attitude that, okay, I didn't want this today, but I can still figure out what to do to get through it. And that's how we make each day the best that it can be. Leave it in the comments. What challenges have you faced lately? What fears do you have for the future that you are preparing for, rather than wringing your hands and hoping it never comes? If we plan for challenging events, then we are ready to face them, and it helps us get through all of the challenges that we face. I hope you'll like my video, share it with someone else you think might enjoy it. Please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.